have World Economic Forum chairman Klaus Schwab. I think he was supposed to stick around for like a year as chairman. He abruptly ups and quits. We also have plenty of news coming out of the Middle East. We'll deal with all of that today with our special guests, Dr. Rob Linstead and Leo Holman. Instead of telling you all the things we're going to talk to, we're just going to get right to it. By the way, we announced last week, and we are excited to be going to the nation's capital. We'll be there, Lord willing, May 5th through the 9th, Monday through Friday. And we have many wonderful opportunities. We have been given White House press passes for the week. So we endeavor to go there and spend some time there. We have interviews set up around Washington. We'll be broadcasting on Monday on the House side of the Capitol, the Senate side in the afternoon. We have an interview set up. I talked to her over the weekend. An interview with Miss Fleet, G. Van Fleet. She wrote the book, Mao's America, A Survivor Warning. I got it in the mail. I ordered it on a Saturday. It was delivered on a Sunday. This Amazon thing, it's amazing, right? And they didn't even use a drone that I'm aware of. But I talked to her on Saturday, and by Sunday, I had her book at my front door. And so I have it now, and I'm going to be interviewing her. She was born and raised in China, and she was put into forced labor and re-education. And at 16 years of age, I think about age 16, she was able to escape. She came to America in 1986. In 2021, she delivered a school board speech in Loudoun County, Virginia, against cultural Marxism, critical race theory. She's got a warning for America. She's seeing many of the ideologies that destroyed China, that caused the Mao Revolution in China, taking root in America. You say, well, Brannon, we don't worry about that. Donald Trump's president now. Oh, really? Well, yes, there is a battle for the hearts and minds of many people in many states that are full-on cultural Marxist states. We also have judges that are absolutely destroying this country. I had a long conversation today with Dan Edwards, and we were talking about what's happening. Dan Eastman. And we're talking about the judges and what they're doing to this country. He's an attorney. So there's going to be plenty to talk about with her. So that's a scheduled interview in Washington, D.C. Many other interviews as well scheduled. We won't take time to talk about that right now, but be praying for provision, safety, open doors as we go to the nation's capital May 5th through the 9th. We're bringing several people on the crew, multiple cameras. We've gotten, I guess we've paid close to $1,000 for permits for the National Park Service to be able to film on location at many historical sites. And we'll also be grabbing a lot of footage as we create a patriotic and historical TV broadcast, because, you know, a lot of young people still need to learn about America's history and our cultural, the battle of the cultural Marxists to take down our country, our Judeo-Christian system in the constitutional republic. So we'll be there also filming a lot of historical sites and bringing in the Christian worldview story of America. No, were all our founding fathers Christians? No, some of them definitely were not. Some of them were, and many of them that even were not. I don't know where they were at the end of their life, some of them. I pray they all came to faith in Christ alone. But even those who questioned the deity, the resurrection, key essential biblical doctrines to be saved, I don't know where they were at the end of their life. But I do know this. Many of those guys, even those guys, understood the importance of the laws of nature and nature's God, and that there was going to be a judgment day. And so we need to teach our young people these things, and we need some new, current, and fresh programming. Not, you know, there was some great stuff that was done back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, but we got better equipment, better cameras, and we're going to get some great production done as well to bring to you guys on television as well. So pray for all that, will you? We appreciate that. Thank you so much. Joining me now is Leo Holman and Rob Lindstedt. Guys, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you.
All right, let's go to the big story that broke today when everybody got up. Kind of shocking. The passing of Pope Francis. Let's start with you, Leo. They wheeled him out. Vance had a meeting with him like a day before he died. He does this kind of Easter appearance, and like 88 hours later, he's gone. I don't know. What are your thoughts of all this? And then we'll get to Klaus Schwab. Now he abruptly has stepped down. Two big globalists. Not a good day for the communist globalist, is it? Pope Francis being your first Marxist Jesuit pope, by the way.
Yeah, these are arguably the two most powerful globalists in the world when you're talking about the head of the papacy and the head of the World Economic Forum. Certainly not the very, very top, but very, very important folks in the whole scheme to bring the world towards a more unified one world global system. We've seen how these positions have been used over the years, and now in the span of 24 hours, both of them have been removed from the scene. And it's going to be very interesting to see who they're replaced with, Brannon. As you said, it was very interesting how they were bringing Pope Francis out for public display for the first time in many weeks since he had fallen ill. They rode him around St. Peter's Square in the Pope Mobile. They brought him out to meet Vice President J.D. Vance. And if you watch the video that was released of that meeting, it was, shall we say, the tea leaves were telling me that Pope Francis was not long for this world. He did not seem fully cognizant of what was going on. He added little or nothing to the conversation as Vance was talking to him. He did not seem lucid. Which makes me think that maybe the Vatican knew he was on his last leg, final hours of his life, and that was why they trotted him out for one last public display, Brannon. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in the days and weeks ahead.
Yeah, and then I was watching one of the networks today that put up the list. In fact, here it is. Somebody has put up a list of 12 leading cardinal candidates. Now, I noticed some of the mainstream media are not listing the man I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for Cardinal Pizzaballa from Israel. He has actually been stationed there. I'm not rooting for him because of his theology. I'm rooting for him because he's got a fun name, number one. But number two, I'm rooting for him from a Bible prophecy standpoint. I'm going to bring Rob in on this one. Because as we've gone down the list of the things that Cardinal Pizzaballa has been doing in Israel, he's criticized Hamas, he's criticized the Palestinians, he's chastened and reprimanded Israel. He seems to kind of be in the middle in some areas. He hasn't made his public policies, according to articles, known on some things. He apparently is very winsome. And from a Bible prophecy standpoint, a guy that's been heavily involved in Israel that maybe could bring together some kind of peace deal or help that along. Pizzaballa seems like a very interesting candidate. Again, I'm not rooting for him over his theology. I'm not Catholic. I don't agree with Catholic theology. But if I were looking at any of these guys that are on the list here, he would be the guy I'd be very intrigued to watch him in that role. What are your thoughts, Dr. Lindstedt, on the passing of the Pope and then these cardinals?
It was interesting that during the Easter celebration that was broadcast live, I watched over an hour of it, and they kept saying, remember that this is not Pope Francis, but they had a substitute filling in. They looked similar, and but they pointed out time and time again, but the speech was actually written by Pope Francis. So I was kind of listening because, he's been a controversial pope in terms of his stance toward Israel. You'd have to say that he's anti-Israel.
Now you're talking about Pope Francis right now.
Yeah, Pope Francis, yes. Because he's openly for the Palestinians, but I think also he's he left a legacy that's really splotched with lots of things. For example, we begin to talk about the gay marriage situation, and he had luncheons with I think 40 transgenders, and he kept pushing the envelope, and they kept talking about how that he was such a man of God, a man of God. But the truth is, every policy that he had, if you go back over the last 2 years, every policy he had nothing to do with the Bible. It had to do with a political point of view. And so it's interesting that that while he's gone, who are they replacing with? I'm with you. Probably if I had a front runner, I would say it might be the man who was trained in Israel and was interested in Israel and has a lot of time invested in Israel. But for sure, I think we could say this, that as God takes down one leader and another leader is put up, I think it's really at a time when he's shaping things to fit exactly the end time scenario. And so I think this next Pope appointment is very important. Plus the fact that, I think it's, I may have sent you the article. It talked about, a certain number of popes, and I think it was in the year, they even have a year, and they say this will be the 112th pope. And the next one will be defined by a system of turmoil. And now I'm not sure that I've checked out the 12th century prophecy that these people have made, but it talks about how that the death of the 112th pope will lead to judgment day, and then they give a year, 2027. Again, I'm not trying to make this prophecy, but it's interesting that this is something that comes to light. And
that was
so
Saint Malachi, I guess, prophecy in the 12th century.
Yeah.
Malachi. Death of the 112th Pope will lead to Judgment Day in 2027. Pope Francis is precisely the 112th Pope. And then after that, he said that the seven-hilled city will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge the people. The end. Do you believe this? Question mark, writes someone. Well, of course, you and I, Dr. Rob, believe that the seven mountains or seven hills is not Rome. The scripture says it is, kingdoms. Five have come, one is and one is yet to come. Five have fallen, one is and one is yet to come. So we don't believe that, and I'm not putting stock in this either, but I do find this interesting. Again, it is fascinating to talk about. But I agree. Whoever this pope is, this next pope.
He's Irish, yeah.
He's going to be a key figure at a time when the world is going more and more toward technocracy, transhumanism. We get back, we'll talk a little bit about this. Leo and I both have been writing for so long, independently of each other, before you knew each other, that Marxism would be used to get people to accept what they would otherwise never accept, which is technocracy and transhumanism. Is that setting the stage? We'll be right back. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. We are back in studio after being gone up there in the Midwest, the beautiful Midwest. Boy, I'll tell you something, folks. Your tree lines, your fence lines of your farms are so clean and manicured and your farms look amazing. It's almost, you guys don't realize it maybe, unless you come down here to the Mid-South. Now, I'm not gonna bemoan my beloved Mid-South, but we came back down into the Delta of Arkansas and on into Tennessee, and Logan and I were saying, look at the fence lines. They're overgrown with shrubs and trees and kudzu and whatever else, a lot of weeds, large weeds, covering the fences, the fence lines. The grass is tall. I mean, the farmers don't do that down here. And we just come up there where we're saying their farms are so clean, their fence lines are so clean. It is beautiful. I mean, the farmers up there do an amazing job. So many of them, as you're riding around, you notice it. And maybe you guys take it for granted up there. Come on down here. And some of our farmers need to follow your example, I'll tell you that. But it is so beautiful up there. If it hadn't been so windy while we were up there, it was windy. I forgot how windy it is in the Mid-South and Midwest sometimes. But we had a great trip, and thank you to all of you that showed up. It was just, we're still walking on a cloud. It was great coming out of there. We came out of there with a lot of enthusiasm and encouragement. So thank you. I hope it was a two-way street with the encouragement. But it's good to be back home and back in our home studio and in my own bed, and to begin another broadcast week. We're gonna get rested up before we head out again 2 weeks from this last Friday for a week. So this is gonna be the most traveling I've done in like 7 years, folks. But it's not gonna be a trend. Trust me. I like staying in my studio. I think Dolly's still exhausted. She's still trying to get recuperated. But we're glad to be back. It was a great trip, though. Thank you to all of you. Joining me is Dr. Rob Lindstedt, BibleTipNow.org, BibleTipNow.org, Leo Holman, LeoHolman.com. Leo, you and I, independently before we knew each other, were writing. I was saying that the Marxists and the Islamists are going to be the junkyard dogs to de-Christianize the West, bring in all kinds of tyranny and oppression that causes the people to have a Hegelian dialectic reaction, thesis and antithesis, idea, opposite idea, they conflict. And then I wrote, going in so many of my books, Grave Influence, Religious Trojan Horse, The Coming Religious Right, Marxianity. The theme I kept giving in those books, if people will read them, is after the country has gone through Marxism, we will, as a nation, think that communitarianism, as I described it, big government, big business, communitarianism. Also, technocracy is a good way to describe it. Google is really a CIA creation. It's big government and Google. So Meta, Facebook is really big business and the government, right? And I said that the American people are not going to accept this unless what is being offered looks like a reprieve from what the Marxists were doing, the Islamists were doing. Now, the Islamists are still at it, so I don't know what's going to go down in Texas with all that, in Michigan, and even they're coming after Tennessee, Florida. But at least when it comes to the Marxists, what's being offered up now, CEOs talking about free speech and all this, right? It's going exactly the way you and I planned. So the question is, do they need to move a Marxist pope out of the way? Now today, we have the abrupt resignation of Klaus Schwab. He was supposed to stay on for a year as chairman, and all of a sudden, what happened to that year? No, I'll make sure the audience isn't confused, because they're like, wait a minute, Brannon, he resigned like a couple weeks ago. Right, but he was going to phase out over the year as chairman of the board. But today, he reportedly up and quit right away. So why do you think, Leo, and how do you think this fits into the transition? And the new pope, I wonder if he's going to be somebody that is younger, more winsome, not as controversial, and is more of that middle-of-the-road guy that kind of seems to fit with the nationalistic flavor and the calls for liberty and freedom that are being sparked around the world with the Prime Minister of Italy, with Viktor Orban in Hungary, the nationalists running in Romania. I mean, we could go down the list. There seems to be a global call for liberty and freedom, and now they need to get rid of Schwab. They need to get rid of the Pope. He's gone. And who's going to fill the vacuum at the Vatican to fit this new role? That's what I want to know. Will it be someone to fit where we're going with technocracy and what appears to be more liberty and freedom, but I'm not sure it is. You can call it a liberty city, a freedom city, but if it's a 15-minute city, it's still a 15-minute city. Leo?
Well, wouldn't that be just like Satan to use that sort of deception? Just like Joe Biden set the stage for a Donald Trump, and you could say Donald Trump set the stage for a Joe Biden and the backlash against Trump. Biden then did the same thing for the return of Trump. Biden and all of the Democrat establishment that engaged in unprecedented lawfare against Trump, all that did was make Trump more popular and increase his chances of becoming returning to the White House. I mean, it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, and yet the mainstream media, was just pummeling Trump and going and following along with this narrative that Trump was a criminal and this, that, and the other. All that did was increase his popularity. I think many moderates and independents, that tipped them in favor of Trump, whereas they might not have voted for him if there had been a more reasonable Democrat to choose from other than a Joe Biden. And we see the same thing, I think, playing out in the religious world now with the papacy. We've had 12 years now of a Marxist pope. I think the majority of Catholics are fed up and disgusted. Overwhelmingly in America, Catholics voted for Donald Trump this time. So that tells you that Catholics, the majority of Catholics, of course there's the liberal wing, but I think the majority of Catholics are generally conservative. They're center-right, and they can identify more with the Donald Trump. They may not be totally in love with some of the things that Trump does, but they can identify with him more than they could a Joe Biden. And I think we're going to see that same thing reflected in the next pope. I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I expect the next pope to be more conservative, at least on the surface, than Pope Francis has been over the last 12 years. But this is what we need to watch for. If the next pope was appointed a cardinal by the current pope who just died, Pope Francis, that tells you that will be the sign and the marker that he is not actually a true conservative. This Pizzaballa, he was Cardinal Pizzaballa, the Patriarch of Jerusalem. He's seen as a very moderate to conservative cardinal. But I don't believe that is his true colors.
I agree.
He would not have been appointed to that position by the most liberal Marxist pope in history if he were indeed conservative.
100% agree with that. Yep. And of course, a lot of these guys, let's face it, in the Protestant world, the Catholic world, a lot of these guys are politicians, and they are eyeing for the next position. So Cardinal Pizzaballa may have been playing his cards close to his chest because he's a cardinal, and he knows if he does this, he might be a better candidate for here.
And by the way, Brannon, there's only been one pope in the last 125 years that started his papacy as a younger man than Cardinal Pizzaballa is today. And that would be Pope John Paul II, who became Pope in 1978 at the age of 58. Cardinal Pizzaballa is 59. He would be the youngest Pope other than John Paul II to serve in modern times.
What do you, before we move to some other topics here, Rob, what do you make of what Leo has been discussing?
Well, what I think is important is just like he's saying, we're finding that some of these side issues are so critical. And that's why I'm concerned, because I see people in the church that are what I say non-involved Christians. They say, okay, it doesn't really matter. It does matter, because you get, let's take these judges. How do these judges get in? Well, we elect people that appoint liberal judges. It affects us a great deal. So these people, they may growl and complain and cry later, but I look at the Christian community, and some of them are so uninvolved with what's taking place in the world around them That's why issues like replacement theology is important. That's why pre-trib rapture is important. Why? Because that affects your worldview, and your worldview affects us every single day. And so I think these are important issues. And so, I look for this to be a great opportunity for Satan to put into play whatever he wants to for this end time scheme. He has to know his time is short. Anyone who reads the Bible would have to say, we think the time is short. Even unbelievers I know say, this looks like what the Bible says.
Yes.
So if they can recognize it, then surely we can recognize it. And that's why I think our worldview is so important. I've got friends say, we don't want to get involved in politics. Well, what do you want to get involved in? And it's normally business, or it's sports, or it's pleasure. I'm not against any of those things, but our first concern has got to be our worldview and our biblical view, because that shapes our future and our destiny.
I like what you said there about, well, all of it, but I like what you said about non-believing friends of yours that know that this world we're living in now seems to be approaching the stage being set for the things to come about the Bible talks about. And that's why Bible sales are spiking with the surveys of first-time Bible purchasers. And the common theme among so many of the people that support our network with either prayer or their financial gifts through our foundation is, aside from VCY America, which carries our broadcast, obviously, and Worldview Tube, we don't know a lot of national outlets. We don't know a lot of television and production and radio organizations that are doing what you guys are doing, presenting what you're presenting, defending what you're defending, proclaiming what you're proclaiming, and understanding what you're understanding. There aren't. Most of them are, playing music, Christian happy talk, and as you say, many, many Christians don't even want to know what's going on, nor do they want to understand it. But yet we have a collection of people that are not Christians, some of them are self-described non-Christians, that are regular viewers of this broadcast and listeners, because they are trying to figure out what's happening. They are seeking. And I think this is a great opportunity for us. And that's, if I got up every day thinking my mission was to reclaim the country, that'd be a pretty depressing mission, because I'm happy that we're where we are right now versus where we were. I also see things very clearly. I'm not an optimist. I'm not a pessimist. I'm a realist. And I realize that right now we're still in very big trouble as a country, economically, spiritually, the judges, the decision these judges are making. Then we got the national security implications, World War III. There's a new article out today, how the globalists, the neocons are trying to take down Pete Hegseth. Apparently Pete's one of the guys who was telling President Trump, you don't want to strike Iran. We want to do this diplomatically. See, these guys want us to go to war, right? And that may fit in at some point with this whole Bible prophecy stage being set. But we're far from a place of having, quote, reclaimed the country. Hello, I'm Brannon Howse. I want to thank you for all your support at www.foundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Let me finish what I was saying before the hard break. If I got up every day thinking my objective was social, political, economic, moralizing, trying to, quote, reclaim the country, to me, I want to fight for what is right through the lens of a Christian worldview. I want to maintain the Christian radio. I want to maintain our pulpits free, parental authority. We can't be pious and say, well, we're above all that. We're in the world, but not of the world. My citizenship is in heaven. That's a very pious and selfish view. I want to be realistic. I have to fight for what is right. I'm called to be salt and light. Stop the rot. Lie of the gospel. Makes common sense to keep the airwaves open, to give the gospel to more people, keep the pulpits from being shackled, right? Do you want to see Christians arrested and thrown in prison? Because that's where we're going if this trend continues as in Europe. We won't be able to say anything about anything controversial, and they'll be knocking on our door. And they're doing this in Europe, and they're trying to even go further in Europe to do this. I'm reading and watching the legislation there. So that would be very selfish and pious to not say, no, we have to have an impact on these issues. We're called to do that as disciples. But I also know what my ultimate goal and objective is as a Christian, right? And I'm going to tell you flat out, okay? I'm going to let you in on a little secret if you don't already know and haven't already figured it out. We're using the news and the world events and economics and national security. We're using all of that as a platform to take what's common to the culture and then turn it into a pulpit and say, I am for national security. I'm for the borders. I don't want to go to World War III. I am very concerned about EMP, bioweapons, cyber attacks, terrorist attacks, Islam, terror cells, Sharia. Yeah. And let me tell you something. We're going to oppose all of that because, as I said last week in my presentation in Waukesha, a lot of this is Satanism, right? Satanism and globalism and world spiritual deception. But I'm also going to use the interest in these topics for the Christians to listen to try to have a more comprehensive biblical worldview, understand where we're going from Bible prophecy, understand God's plan and where we are in his economy. But also for all you non-believers that are listening and watching, I'm hoping you tune in and say, I want to hear what Brannon has to say about Pope Francis dying and Klaus Schwab retiring and what's going on. But you know, I'm going to just tell you the way it is. I use these topics also to draw you in and then hope that you hear the gospel here regularly and come to ultimate saving faith. Because we could reclaim the country and turn it back to Mayberry and Ward and June Cleaver days, and people still be dying and going off to hell. So ultimately, I use this as a platform to talk about those issues that are important, and we need to have a biblical response to these issues of the day. But ultimately, it's a platform to say, ultimately, our hope is not in this world, it's not in America, it's in the death and burial resurrection of Christ that we celebrated on Resurrection Sunday yesterday. Dr. Lindstedt, that's what you and I believe. I know Leo does too, but comment on that, please.
Well, let's just take resurrection that we just passed. I was shocked as I look at what's being posted on the internet on messages. There's some whole church services that really never mention the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ. How do you dismiss this day? I mean, this is the ultimate victory for Christians. Our victory took place 2,000 years ago. We still celebrate that victory, but I still think it's important for us to claim that. And yet the competition to have the biggest crowd on Easter. We want to set a record from last year, and so there's more talk on eggs. There's more talk on rabbits. There's more talk on the free coffee. I'm not opposed to any of those things, but man, this is the day that it really counts. And I think the world is looking for hope. Look how many people left where they were politically, switched to Trump. Why? Because they found that in Trump there was some hope. And I think the same is true of Christianity. I have a habit of when the UPS guy or the Amazon guy comes to my door, I hand him a gospel tract, or I hand him a book. I pray for divine appointments. And so everyone that comes is going to get the gospel somehow. I'm not saying they're going to read it, but I'm saying I'm going to say, hey, I think you'll be interested in this. You know what? They normally thank me when I go to Sam's. I shop at Sam's, and people there know me, and they know, okay, someone's going to get a book today because Dr. L is in the building. That's okay. I want them to know that because, you see, I think all of this takes place so that we can win people the faith in Jesus Christ. And so you're right. I don't think the Bible says that we're going to reclaim America, but we're going to reclaim souls.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that our job is to let people know there is a crisis in the world, and it sneaks in. To me, a great example is King Charles.
Oh yeah, Hey, you brought that up. I actually had it queued up. Let's go. Let's play this. And if you comment, you sent this to me today. Here's King Charles today, guys. Here we go.
The Quran says.
The Quran. Okay, just so you make it. He's quoting the Quran. Okay, here we go.
As the Quran says, God does not burden any soul with more than it can bear. We hope that you have a blessed and fulfilling Ramadan. Peace be upon you all. Ramadan Mubarak. As Muslims across the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth observe the beginning of the holiest of months in the Islamic calendar, the month of Ramadan, I just wanted to convey my heartfelt best wishes to you all and to tell you just how much my wife and I are thinking of you at this special time of year. This would have been a joyous time. Mosques would be filling with life. Muslim families would be coming together to share food and prayers, and many of them would be inviting their neighbors and friends of all faiths and none to join them. My wife and I can only offer you all our kindest and most special wishes and stress just how greatly the contribution of Muslims to the life of the United Kingdom is appreciated and valued, embodying the Ramadan spirit of charity and selflessness. As the Quran says, God does not burden any soul with more than it can bear. We hope that you have a blessed and fulfilling Ramadan. Peace be upon you.
All right, peace be upon you. Oh boy. Tell this to the folks being raped and murdered, the Christians killed in Syria, and all the other nations where we've seen them being so peaceful and loving. I mean, Leo, please comment, and then we'll let Rob comment.
Well, this is an example of why the Western world, the Western civilization is in such dire shape and really teetering on the edge of collapse. We have no strong leaders, Brannon, in most of these countries that make up the Western world. I would say the majority of them are puppets of the World Economic Forum. They can be told to say whatever on cue, and if that means praising Islam and giving blessings to Muslims on Ramadan and encouraging them in their Islamic faith and giving them that assurance that the government has got your back, they'll do it. And that's what we saw there. Despicable display right there in front of our eyes by King Charles, who, by the way, there's been rumors that he secretly converted to Islam.
I know. I didn't know if I should bring that up or not, but you're exactly right. There are. Yes.
So he is a very important figure. A lot of people do not realize just how important he is in the rise of globalism and the whole climate change hoax, the Green New Deal agenda. He is an important figure behind all of that, as you know, Brannon, and have talked about for many years.
Yep.
And he's another one who has suffered from poor health recently, and but he seems to be above politics, and he seems to operate on a higher realm, if you will, than most political leaders, at least in the Western world right now. He seems to almost emanate on a spiritual level, in an interfaith level, Islam, anything but the truth, but not really, hardcore politics. So because of that, very few people really recognize how dangerous he is and how he's merely a tool of the globalists.
Yeah. There's a video, Dr. Lindstedt, that Bill Federer sent me today. It's a imam, he got the Palestinian flag out, in Rotterdam, which is the second largest city in the Netherlands. Listen to what this guy had to say today. And let's put that in contrast with what King Charles just said. Here we go, folks.
نرفع علما إلا علم فلسطين لا نرفع علما إلا علم فلسطين. Geen vlag omhoog, alleen de vlag van Palestina. Met alle respect voor alle landen, verschillende nationaliteiten hier.
All right, now you guys can't understand that, obviously, neither can I. But this is in the Netherlands, and it is a massive crowd. Thousands of people, Palestinian flags. We know what they stand for. We have read the Hamas charter, what these people stand for. It is no Israel whatsoever. It's the takedown of Christianity. It's the takedown of the Western world. And King Charles is either so dumb, and I don't think he's the brightest guy around, but these people are taking over Europe. We get Robert from the UK emails me all the time. He listens. They are taking over the UK, and there's King Charles thinking that somehow these people are loving and peaceful and are just such a great addition to the Western culture or the culture of the UK. He's either really dumb and or just super, super demonically deceived. I don't know which one. But I like Leo. He's got cancer, King Charles. And I think, wouldn't it be something, folks, if you see King Charles exiting the stage soon due to cancer, and then you get William, who is just as liberal as his father. I mean, we could be about to see, Dr. Lindstedt, a resetting of the whole global leadership with younger people pushing, quote, kinder, gentler globalism, if you will. I mean, isn't that what happened after Reagan? After Reagan, you get George H. shows up calling for a kinder, gentler America. Really? What did we have under 8 years of Reagan? I mean, that was a real insult to Reagan. Leo? I mean, Dr. Lindstedt?
Well, tolerance is not the friend of Christianity. Tolerance is not the friend of democracy and of freedom. And so people always think, okay, we're going to win them by tolerance. But I don't think that's how you win people. I think you win people with truth. And so truth is found in the Bible. And truth is found in being honest with people. I was just telling you, Brannon, about a conference I had, and I didn't do it to win a popularity contest. I didn't do it to make a lot of friends. But there was a time when there was doctrine that was misrepresented from the Bible. And I'm in a crowd of people, and I hate to be, I'm old enough that, everyone says, okay, the old people, well, I said, it doesn't matter your age. Here's the Bible. What does the Bible say about these doctrines? We got to take a Bible point of view. Otherwise, you're going to have these liberals like King Charles and his sons, and they're going to drift their people. Tolerance will drift them away from truth, from real freedom.
Yeah, we come back. Well said. We come back. Let's go to the Middle East, guys. 6,315 Jews ascended to the Temple Mount for Passover prayers. That's an increase of over 37% from the previous Passover peak, and a record number since ancient times. All right, let's get into that and some other things related to the Middle East. Don't go away.
But with Brannon, it's always cutting edge stuff happening in the world, and it's not just from the political angle, because you can get that on other platforms, but it's always from the biblical angle. So you're dealing with a guy that loves Jesus, you're dealing with a guy that's very intelligent, you're dealing with a guy that is cutting edge conservatism, and you're dealing with a guy that wants to be biblical all at the same time. And so for that reason alone, I hope many, many people will not just lift up his ministry in prayer, but will also financially get behind it, because from the angle I'm trying to describe, he really is the only game in town. And we desperately need it in these last days. Can I get an amen to that?
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, worldviewradio.com. Be sure to stay tuned for Crosstalk coming up with Jim Schneider at the top of the hour. I want to go to Qatar's foreign ministry issued a statement of strong condemnation following an animated video simulating the construction of the temple on the Temple Mount that will occur hopefully in our lifetime. And I think it also simulated the destruction, didn't it? Let me play it just to make sure that's what I'm seeing. No, it was. Okay, it was the construction. Okay, we're going to come back to that. It looked like it was blowing up, but out of the fire came the whole temple. All right, before we get to that, let's go to the 37% increase of people ascending onto the Temple Mount during Passover. Dr. Lindstedt, we got 8 minutes.
Okay, it's really exciting to see the fact that in spite of everybody kind of pushing away against Israel, they say this is not important. Well, it is important. And you see the great increase of people wanting to go on the Temple Mount. There's no doubt that Ben Veer has made progress because he stubbornly says, here's an important issue. We've got to have the freedom to go to the Temple Mount. I don't agree with Ben Veer on everything, but there should be that freedom. And so right now we have Islam laying back. Islam is afraid of more attacks, or supported attacks, or verbal attacks from Trump and the United States. Right now is an incredible time in Israel. But of all things, I'm not sure that we made a wise choice when we said Israel had a way to do some things to Iran's nuclear facilities. I don't know if it was sabotage. I don't know if it was direct taking it out. I don't know if it was an oil field. All of those have been suggested to me by people who are very involved in the Middle East. I don't know which one it is. But here's what I do know. I do know that eventually, if Israel defends itself, particularly on the item of Iran, and particularly if it goes against the United States and Trump trying to negotiate, Israel will then become all by itself. That's my fear, is that we're watching it take place, that Israel is going to be in a situation all by themselves. We cannot tell them, don't defend yourself. Negotiations are fine. But if you're as small as Israel, you're sitting next to Iran, and Iran says, we're going to use our nuclear weapons to weaponize, you know what? I think Israel should have the right to say, we're going to sabotage their reactors. I don't blame them. It's too close. It's like being across the street.
Yeah, I don't blame them either. I guess my concern, Leo, is how does America do this without dragging ourselves into World War when we had 8 years under Obama with the borders open, 4 years under Biden, 12 years to prepare the battlefield? The American people better understand, if we assist Israel in this, okay, then we got to show the existential threat to the homeland. But understand the existential threat is if we go and get involved, we could very well have terror cells let loose here in the U.S. The American people all need to understand what we're talking about here. Do you agree?
Totally, Brannon. If the United States is in any way involved in an attack on Iran, I would certainly hope that President Trump, in a primetime speech to the nation, would make a huge point of how Americans should prepare for such scenarios as you just described, with endless terror cells being activated. At that point, no major city becomes safe. No strategic area around any U.S. military installation becomes safe. We just have far too many Muslims in this country now, after 35, 40 years or more of importing them, mostly to satisfy the needs of business for cheap labor, bringing in refugees from countries that hate us. I wrote a whole book about that and the reasons why it's been done. So, yeah, it's too far down the line now with the Islamization of America to just go off and attack a Muslim country without at least first preparing the American people. And I would hope the pastors of this country would prepare them spiritually. I don't foresee it because most pastors are not awake in the Christian church right now, which is in America largely asleep. So
I'm also concerned about the backlash onto the Jews. Leo,
absolutely.
Because if we do this,
that's been going on since October 7th, right?
Right.
But I think the next stage is to take the violence up a notch and expand it not just to Jews but also to Christians.
Yep. But if we have terrorist attacks in America, Dr. Lindstedt, due to us joining Israel, going after Iran, the backlash to the Jews, you think we got a problem now with the anti-Semites, even on the right? Wait till you start having terrorist attacks in America and people say, well, this is all due to Israel. If we had just stayed out of this, if we had not joined in with Israel attacking Iran, we wouldn't have all these dead people in America. The Jews are nothing but trouble is what they're going to say. So what I'm saying is the church and Christians and conservatives need to understand the playing field and what we're about to enter, because it's going to involve the Christians and the Jews and the Zionists. We're all going to get put into a position here where we get blamed, right? So I'm trying to be a realist and say, if we do this, we have to understand the consequences, the price. And we also have to explain to the American people the existential threat. I know the existential threat to Israel being right next door to it. Where is the existential threat to America? And if we do this, what's the threat to America? You see what I'm saying, Dr. Lindstedt? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's a great point, because you see, I believe that we should encourage Israel to defend itself as it feels best it can do.
Yes.
Okay. What I'd like to do is say, okay, we don't oppose Israel defending itself, but Israel is capable of doing the job.
Yes.
Israel is capable of taking that nuclear power plant out. They could take it out for 1 year. They could take it out for 5 years. They could do it either with software. They can do it physically. There's so many ways. They're bright people. They have multiple schemes. I think we should say do it. In the meantime, if we want to say we're not going to attack you, but by the way, what are we doing in Yemen? We're attacking Yemen, and Yemen is an extension of Iran. So we kind of talk both sides. But I'm not for the United States declaring war on Iran. But I think what we should do is say, you know what, Iran, we're not going to hold Israel back. Because let me tell you that Iran is more afraid of Israel's threat and power than they are anyone else.
Well, they have the Samson, right? Don't they have the Samson?
Yep, they do. And
which is a nuclear weapon, I think.
Yeah. So, and you know what? The people of Iran are rooting for us. The people of Iran are saying, God bless you. We want you, because they hate their government. Their government is a horrible, wicked government. It kills anybody and everybody. And so they're rooting.
Yeah.
They're rooting for us.
And I'm not saying Israel should use that nuclear weapon, because here's the problem, folks. There are a lot of Persians that are on our side. They love Israel. They hate Sharia. They want out of this. We need to somehow get the Iranians to take out, overthrow their own government. BibleTipNow.org and LeoHolman.com. Take care.
This has been.
And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and our Worldview Tube audience. Leo, I'm not saying that Israel needs to go and use the nuclear weapon, but I think we really need to go the route that Annie was talking. We need to somehow get our intelligence communities in there to really back up the Persian people to get rid of this regime. What are your thoughts, Leo?
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. I think Annie Cyrus had a great insight on this that I haven't really heard elsewhere, that the son of the former Shah of Iran is a candidate in waiting to lead that country, and he's very pro-Western. And as you and Dr. Lindstedt have pointed out, the population of Iran is very much against the mullahs. The Islamic Republic of Iran does not have the support of the general public in their own country. So if we could use the CIA for good for a change, instead of fomenting revolution on the wrong side of the coin in some of these countries, it could be used to do the same thing, to bring a leader who actually supports peace and freedom to the head of the Iranian state.
Yeah. Dr. Lindstedt, closing thoughts from you?
Well, I think it's interesting to look at the Gaza situation right now. That has changed dramatically, let's say, in the last 100 days. Why? Because there was someone strong enough to stand up and say, no, we're not going to put up with that. And they were strong enough to say, we know the support's coming from these sources. And all of a sudden, that whole thing changed. I hope we don't go back to a two-state solution. From time to time, Saudi Arabia continues to propose a two-state solution. I hope that we become friends of Israel, supporters of Israel, but more importantly, I hope we become supporters of God's word. And the Bible says that land is not to be parted. And so I'm real big on us being American, supporting Israel verbally, by trade, by sharing information, but they are quite capable of carrying out their mission by themselves. And I say, let them have the freedom to do it. That would be my big take on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. You agree with that too, don't you, Leo?
As long as it's not nuclear, because of the reasons already stated, I think that would have a devastating effect on the Christians in Iran, who are numerous. And I would hope that if it's able to be done through a cyber attack, that would be my first choice.
Yeah, because we don't want all those Christian Persians or the Persians that aren't Christians but are very friendly to us, very friendly to Israel. We don't want them killed or harmed or radiated or coming down with cancer a year from now.
I don't think that would be a godly maneuver.
Well, it wouldn't. No, and it would not be a way to win more people to the side of independent, safe Israel, right? I mean,
and believe it or not, America, while we would say otherwise, in the foreign world, especially Islamic countries, America is seen as a Christian nation. So to have, in their eyes, a Christian nation supporting a Jewish nation that is using a nuclear weapon against a country like Iran, I don't think we might win the battle but lose the war.
Well, you're right, because there's going to be a PR battle, right? And the PR battle is going to be 24/7, nonstop. Look at what Israel did to all these innocent Persians, right? And Israel doesn't need that, right? I don't know what it is, Dr. Lindstedt, that's going to cause the whole world to come against Israel. I don't know what it is. Obviously, there are going to be a lot of Jews during the tribulation become believers, a lot of Gentiles too, but a lot of Jews, 144,000 Jewish evangelists that are sealed spiritually and physically. But something is going to bring up anti-Semitism like we have never seen. My pen just went across the floor. There's going to be something that comes up like we have never seen anywhere on the planet when it comes to anti-Semitism. And I'm always trying to figure out what it is. And I don't know if it's going to be Israel going too far somewhere along the way and the propaganda of the pictures of innocent people burned and suffering and tumors and cancer. I don't know what it is. But from a PR standpoint, Israel has to be very careful. You agree, right?
Yes, I do. And I believe that is what turns the world against Israel. I believe that Israel will become so committed to defending themselves that they will find themselves in a situation where, whether it's nuclear or not, but I think the tribulation is described in Zechariah 14 and in Ezekiel 39 and other places in Revelation. It does speak of the fact that there's going to be something that's going to be horrible, and I think it could well be nuclear or something chemical. But look at the chemical pods that are there. They're in Syria. They're thick in Syria.
Yep.
And so so I think Israel will go too far, and the world will react against Israel. I'm not saying Israel should take them out nuclearly. I think that they should do what they can to stop them from going any further with their nuclear threats and power. And let's face it. No one wants to see people die.
Yeah, exactly.
And nuclear will make hundreds, thousands of people die.
BibleTipNow.org, LeoHolman.com. Thanks for listening, folks, and supporting WorldviewFoundation.com. Take care.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon Howse.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander,